Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 11:34 a.m. Monday, October 25th, 6 days away from Halloween. And I'm here to do a bit of an audio, not video, but audio response to Miko, xxMikoxx, on some of the forums has been saying. Now, according to what Miko put down on the Sega forums, the message boards, if you will, at Sega.com, is there's a topic on there that says that Sally's officially become a Mary Sue in the comic books. Princess Sally's officially become a Mary Sue in the comic books. And I'll provide a link down here with what he's saying. But basically, he has said that, you know, well, he did basically. It's well, you'll read the link down here, and I have it printed out here. So I'm just, going to point out that this is what he's saying. First of all, I'm going to quote this off. He says, "Quote: This is xxMikoxx says, I suppose, and this is quoting him. Quote: I suppose people will have their own takes with what's below, but he's married. Why he still writes Sally like an imptimo of wish fulfillment. I don't know, I guess he should have put a question mark there. But then he says, it sounds too much to me like a case of Ray Jones oogling over Gadget Hackwench and leaving his wife to iron her costume he has her wear. She's perfect and nothing not to love about her. Again, sounds like a dude's wish fulfillment fan fiction. Basically, basically, xxMikoxx is comparing Ian's is saying that Ian is he's basically comparing Ian's writing of Sally lately to fulfilling a wish of a fan, and basically writing it from a fan's perspective, and what would be something like fan fiction. Basically, he's comparing it to the fact, again, because he quotes at the end of this first thing. He says, "Again, it sounds like a dude's wish fulfillment fan fiction." In other words, what Miko is saying is that Ian is writing it like it's supposed to be some kind of fan fiction that a fan would write. Oh, sorry, I hit the mic there. xxMikoxx. Let me explain something in case you forgot. Ian was a fan. Ever hear of Other M? Yeah. And to compare it to Ray Jones oogling over Gadget Hackwench, let me put this way. Ray Jones may be the oldest fan in the Rescue Ranger fan base, but if his wife had a problem with it, he would mention something. That's how it is. And I doubt his wife would have a problem with it, because why would she go out of her way to make a costume for herself to wear? Huh? Think of it that way. Ian was a fan, in case you forgot. And he's not doing wish fulfillment. He's just basically bringing Sally back to the way she was. Maybe you're not used to that anymore. Maybe you're used to seeing the Sally that's locked up in castles and all that. But he's trying to bring her back to being the Sally of SatAM. Believe it or not. A Sally that everybody can love and enjoy without complaining and hating on. That's what he's doing. Now, xxMikoxx goes on to also say, the only difference from this and standard fanfiction is that a fic like this on fanfiction.net typically sounds like, and he quotes something, she's so great, so awesome, beat up the villain and is pretty and humble, there is no reason you shouldn't like my Pussin Sue R&R please 111. Sorry again, I hit the mic. Now, he does have a point. Sometimes fan fiction sound like that, but then he says at the bottom, it's still pig writing no matter how much lipstick Ian puts on it. If he was still a fan making a semi-bio about a character like that on fanfiction.net, he'd have more than enough reviews on telling them to fix the Sue. And he's fully aware of people basically he says he's fully aware people are tired of him writing her like a Mary Sue. But he also says, but Ian hasn't listened yet. It's doubtful he ever will. Well, on with it then. Ian does listen to the fans, Miko. Here's the thing, which you don't understand. Ian listens to the fans. He's listening to the fans that have been fans for a long time, since the days of Sad AM. That's why it seems that she's acting that way. He's trying to slowly bring them into that situation to where Sally was like the Sally and Sad AM and in the early days of the comics, where she has a relationship with Sonic, but it's not the, ooh, I gotta be around Sonic all the time kind of deal. I gotta be all kissy-facey with him. No, it's the Sally that takes things and balances them out. That's what he's trying to write her back as. And now he's basically quoting a lot of things that he got off xxMikoxx.com. One, here, after what I just said, he says, Sally is a truly remarkable young woman. This is everything he got off Archie.com. This is basically what I'm going to say now is off Archie.com that he got. He said, Archie.com, or XxComics.com says, Sally is truly a remarkable young woman. She's both academically gifted and a shrewd technician. She's agile and dexterous, allowing her to get the upper hand against stronger opponents. And she's got that whole beautiful princess thing going for her too. Despite all her abilities, she remains modest, probably because of her rustic life in Knothole under the threat of Robotnik. Sally always has the potential for her current greatness, but she had to work hard to realize it. So she's amazing in just about everything and humble to boot. Is there anything not to love about her? She's truly a remarkable young woman. And again, I don't know. But he just repeats it again. I don't know why he did that. And then he puts down the source that it's archiecomics.com/blog/Sonic, princess da-da-da. And then he questions that she's a good technician and the perfect princess. But then Miko, I don't know if it's a girl or boy. I apologize if I don't know what the gender is. But then Miko goes on to say, look, Sally has steadily gone, and this is, again, quoting from xxMikoxx. Quotes, look, Sally has steadily gone from one of my more favorite characters, she still is ignoring Ian's writing. I guess that's, I don't know. And a decent technician to one of the dumbest technicians and characters in general I've ever seen. And by dumb, I define this to her absent-minded, untactful, not considering consequences, and just being too mind-numb to remember instructions she agreed were wise. We all have our dumb moments, but Sally is too often portrayed as dumb in her assigned areas of expertise these days. I mean, if she's going into battle, maybe shedding her identity as a princess or providing her an alter ego like Dear Allie, something to address the fact a princess who could easily get kidnapped and ransomed is acting like this war is a playground. Even the most lame-brained of ruling class heirs would know not to do the things she does in today's world. As a princess, why is she fighting? She hasn't been needing as a technician for over a year in Mobian time, and needlessly running into danger while toting her title. Her family is still a government figurehead and continues to influence politics. She is also a childhood friend to another member of the council and once part of a group of freedom fighters that today serve on the council. First of all, let me explain again. Let me explain this, Miko. What Ian is doing is not dumbing her down. He's bringing her back to being the Sally of Sat-am. Back to the days of Sally in the earlier issues of the comics, the one that balances things out. That's why she's portrayed the way she is. Get it through you guys' heads. He's not dumbing her down. He's not making her act absent-minded. No. It's the fact that he's bringing her back to what fans recognize. Get it? Something that everybody can respect and agree on. That's what he's doing. Jeez. You think people would get it through their heads by now. Excuse me. Hit the mic again. Now, Miko goes on to say Tails has similar issues with Rosemary in office, as does Sonic with Chuck. And this is again quoting xxMikoxx. But I think something ought to be done about that as well, like getting them out of office. But even still, Sally has a lot more connections to the government, than the average soldier, and it's not as though this hasn't been exploited before. If Sonic is kidnapped, Rhoda and Chuck might flip. But the villain would have no reason except for anyone else to. However, while the former substitute freedom fighters have no relationship to Sonic and take many of the seats, they do have a connection to Sally in addition to Chuck, Elias, and Rhoda. She is also part of a family that serves as a symbol of the city's heritage, which seemed important enough for Emeritus, Tails' father, agreeing to keeping for the people. Her family, as Nick mentioned, is loaded, and she's one of the weakest combatants on the field. Look, yeah, she has connections to the council. There's no doubt about it. She does. But does she influence it? No. She basically just suggests. Look, when she is being tried as a traitor for disobeying orders, she was willingly going to let herself be arrested and put in jail until she convinced the council or suggested to the council, look, you can either put me behind bars or you could trust me. It's up to you. She gave them the option. She didn't, she didn't say, hey, I'm the princess. You got to let me do what I want. No, she gave them the option. Read your issues. Jeez. I mean, come on, Miko. You're smarter than that. You ought to know better. Okay, now he says she's a sitting duck. Okay, she gets kidnapped by Knack. Hello? That's when Ken Penders was writing. And Carl Bowles was writing. Alright? What Ian is doing, despite how you feel about him doing certain things, and believe me, he has done some things that don't make sense, that shouldn't have been done, Iron Dominion Saga included. But what he's doing is trying to bring her back to what she was. Again. Jeez, get it through your heads, people. Now, he says she's a sitting duck, and then says, so there's a reason, too, for villains, especially mercenaries, to think kidnapping her, knowing that she is a figurehead, her capture would provoke more outrage and panic among civilians than the average soldier. However, as with many over-the-top wish fulfillment stories, the villains are conveniently too dumb, however, and her parents conveniently forget to remind Sally that she has been ransomed before. Sally these days is not a perfect princess, she just never receives any consequences for ill-thought decisions. First of all, Sally doesn't need to be reminded she's been kidnapped before. She knows that. Herself, the character knows that. And she doesn't need to receive any consequences. Do you understand? She's a freedom fighter. Have you read the Iron Dominion story, despite the fact it shouldn't have been a year long? Let me tell you this. She's a freedom fighter, and she does what's best for the country as a freedom fighter, and she doesn't need to receive any any consequences for her decisions. It goes back to what I said when she was being tried as a traitor. She gave the council the option of putting her in jail or trusting her with her decisions in the future.